So I'm going to show you just a little bit of these photos and clips are from various versions of my MIDI studio, and you can see there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Not just the cabling, but the communication in terms of the audio, and of course the physical footprint. And so that all kind of started to change a little bit when I got the MPC, as you can see there. And the MPC really was initially brought in to sort of serve as a bridge gap for an alternative way of composing and working. So it was another learning curve. Make no mistake, for me it was a big learning curve. And so it kind of served as like a second alternative way of, let's just say, making music. Now, the big change was, the big eye-opener is when I started sampling. So you take this hardware that you have, and you start sampling some of that, and learning, sort of the art form of actual programming and sound design, which is something that I didn't really take kind to, because I always had the sounds I wanted from the hardware, so it was something I never had to do. But once I started doing the expansion system and teaching myself basically how to do sample expansion for the MPC, it became very apparent that the days were numbered in trying to manage these really large multi-cabled systems, which were really expensive and took a lot of space. And so the magic started happening. There's the first version of expansions, as you can see right here. But as soon as I got into the unified workflow of having those sounds within the system of the MPC, it became, an extremely tactile and, like I said, unidimensional way of accessing, your compositions and arranging, and of course your sounds. Once those sounds started living inside the MPC, I no longer had really use for that external gear. I mean, it was really limited. And so there's the Keys 37 right there. That was ultimately the proof of concept, when you could take something like that, put it under your arm, and have the sounds that you would get, plus more, in the form factor. And of course, there's my studio right here, sort of in its finished form. All right, welcome back. So as you saw all that hardware in that previous video, I take it's not a badge of honor at all, believe me, having all that. It's something like I can kind of consider that the collateral damage that you do to yourself, or the scar tissue that you build up throughout life in terms of, the walk of life, if you will. Because having all that gear, I mean, just imagine this. Hey, I need a synth bass, right? Do I get it from Omnisphere? Do I get it from, the Korg Legacy? Do I get it from Roland Cloud? Do I get it from my 5080? Think about that. Oh, maybe I'll get it from Contact. I mean, that only has 14 to 28,000 sounds in it. And so something real basic like that should not be that destructive of an experience. Believe me. Because I've been through it. And so the sampling project that kind of had undergone in 2022, started at midway, took me about a couple years of conservative, real, at times very conservative effort. But to say the least, if you're looking to make the MPC, choosing that as a platform and wondering if it can do all that, there's an asterisk to it. If you're willing to put the hard work into it, and you want to learn how to sample, how to sound design, and there's some technical aspects a little bit. It's not too difficult. But as far as the sample editing and building the expansion packs, it makes it a really one-of-a-kind of experience in terms of integrated experience. Okay, and it just so happens that the MPC platform itself, so here's an expansion right here, drum expansion, an example, and I'm going to load a couple sounds in here. We'll load this super tight kit. So just to regress, normally what would happen is I would go to the software, I would load up let's say a software library of drums, and I would load another one, which is on another track. And then I would go on there and I would tweak the sound the way I want it, and I would probably save it as a preset. Okay, this now is very similar to that now, but I no longer have to worry about it because I've tweaked everything and it's sampled the way I want. I no longer have to tweak it as much. Okay, so getting to a sound is not that hard. If I go into, let's go get a keyboard sound. Go on to Rhodes. Acoustic piano. If I want to get electric piano, so say I just get this DX7 sound. I'm gonna load a new track. So normally I would go over to the hardware, and I would have I had 3 Ashley LX308Bs, and I would have to make sure that that channel's enabled in the right volume, at that time, and make sure I got the right patch on the DX7. And as a matter of fact, this is a multi-patch where I sampled many samples of electric pianos and then reassembled them. So this would be impossible to do with one DX7. And maybe I wanted, an MKS20 sound. So I go to my MKS20, do the same thing, and then make sure I got the effects on there because, they never had any effects. So I go on and get my Strymon pedals and put that through an effects loop. All that work just to get that sound where I can get that sound now. Right here. The sound is just right here, right there instantaneously. For a recall, I can get it again, load it for another project, save it, and these sounds will save. So just that alone. And then, again, unlike, let's say you're in a Kronos, for example, which I've had a couple times, and you got this really cool combi, but you want to record it. You have to go through these steps to get those combis into the sequencer. Here, it's right here. In real time, the drum, pulling up a drum sound. Never had to go to a module, never had to use a mouse to get to a plugin, route that audio, and make sure that all lined up. Never had to go to the mixer. And even if I did have to go to the mixer, it's like right here. Because the sounds all live in your MPC now. Right? Going in and finding a sound. Let's just go to a guitar sounds were always really hard to get. Like good electric guitar sounds and for rhythm and so forth. So I can do all sorts of combinations, change them up. Point is being able to get to it. Even while it's playing, I can load a sound. and it's instantly recallable. The effects, again, you can program any way you want. This is how I have this set up here with this effects. As a matter of fact, because they're all integrated now, I can see all the effects at one time on every channel, and then can get to them by using these buttons here. Again, back to here. So again, with a big asterisk, if you're willing to get down and dirty and sample your instruments, and put the time in, believe me, it's well worth it. You're going to sample the sounds that you like the most. Again, I'm more of a product of the 80s, so I sampled, stuff, the instruments that you saw in my, studio tour. But I didn't sample. I learned a lot because I did not sample like Celeste number 1, harp number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, banjo number 1, 2, 3, 4. I only sampled what I wanted. And therefore, I don't have to go through all those sounds just to find one sound. So if I say I wanted, let's say, an ethnic style instrument, well, I know I have them, a few of them in here. So if I load this Bosphorus sound, right, and then I'll load the sitar. All right. Now I have choices. I'm gonna play this. Actually, I'm gonna load an acoustic guitar. I'm just gonna test it out to see if this works. I'm gonna load like a nylon string guitar, and I'm gonna do like a Pat Metheny style layer. Right. Or go with the Bosphorus with the sitar. But the idea is the facility is all in here. I didn't have to run over to the rack module, didn't have to adjust a mixer, didn't have to adjust the MIDI channels, didn't have to go in. So what ends up happening is all that goes away, learning how to save a sound, for example, in Omnisphere, which is not that easy, by the way, as far as saving something. Or going into your 5080 and making a combi, and then pulling that combi back up for this particular song that you may work on a week later. That all goes away, and it's really sort of that moment of at least for me, epiphany that I had gotten to, where I can honestly say I would never go back to any kind of hardware, or combinations of hardware as you saw on that previous studio tour. I mean, this is the way for me, and it now allows me. I finally had gotten to the point where it allows me to make music now. I no longer have to be a technician and learn many operating systems. Utility, Job, remember the Yamaha? Korg, Global, Program Edit, Combi Edit, the list goes on. Roland, System, remember that? System and Utility? Those are all gone. I no longer have to, suffer from dealing with that. And more so, and then so the other question is putting all your eggs in one basket and learning the MPC. Is it realistic that the MPC can handle all that kind of stuff and is cohesive enough to work with, to sequence and the sample? And the answer is yes. The truth is the MPC is really at the core of it is a sampler. Is really a sampler and a sequencer, and then they're tightly integrated with one another. And so by getting your sounds in the sampler and using, of course, the browser integration like I have here, makes it extremely tightly integrated, much more than any other workstation that I've ever seen. The closest thing that I've ever seen might be Logic. If you're willing to use the multi-sampler in Logic, you can really achieve some really cool things. The one thing that Logic doesn't have over this, again, this is compare and contrast, is that if you're someone that wants to, you're experienced in actually making music, and you want that hands-on, tactile integration, and be able to execute what you need to do with hardware, Logic does not have that. There's nothing in Logic that can allow you to do what you can do on here in that way. Of course, Logic is a DAW, and it's a linear audio recorder, and it's a kind of its own thing as well. But if you are a songwriter again and a keyboard player with a little, like I said, with a lot of work, and concerted effort, you could sample your library in here. And again, you have MPC keys, you got the 37, you got the live. These aren't just different price point machines that you can use, but they're also specific form factors that allows you to retain the workflow that you work on, that you work so hard on learning, but you can take these different form factors out for specific different uses without having to give up the workflow. In other words, if I had a Kronos and I had an MPC and I had to go take my Kronos out, I would have to learn the whole Kronos operating system, the sequencing or whatever it might be. And then how do you get the Kronos projects from here into here? You just can't. So you've got an MPC keys that you could take out, still retain the same sounds, same workflow, right? And you got in the studio, you have something like this, like the MPCX. And so that's what this platform really, on top of everything else, offers, is that parity with being at one and keeping that same workflow. So anyway, leave any questions or comments. And by the way, if you want to see more videos specific on certain features, come visit the channel and deeper into the channel. I really focus in like on the channel mixer, on the effects racks, things like that, and you can kind of get real deep into how that actually works within the MPC. And again, until next time, any questions, comments, leave them below, and peace out.